How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Sidelined. I'm Brooke 𝗬𝗟. That's Dani K coming to us from Monte Carlo. That's cool. Dani, how is it?
It's great. It's 11 p.m. and I got a lot of energy here, Brooke, because I'm excited to be talking to you. I'm excited for this episode. We have an awesome guest. But before we get there, can everybody just clap it up right now for Brooke 𝗬𝗪? Because I do believe you were in the 99th percentile of brackets.
I can't believe it. That's why I had to take a little victory lap, because I was like, you know what? My bracket peaked. This is never going to happen to me again. I only missed 5 picks on my bracket. Only missed 5. I don't know how I did it, but I won my family league. And so now I have bragging rights for the next year, Dani.
No kidding. You also have sidelined rights as bragging rights as well, because I thought for sure you were going to come after me if Auburn won this national championship. And the fact that you picked Florida to win is mind-blowing to me.
Okay, so in our family league, we can pick make 2 brackets. I had one leading with my heart, one leading with my head. Auburn, as a true Auburn fan, they find ways to let you down. Although they had a great run. You got to give Bruce Pearl and those guys a lot of credit there. But Florida, man, they were just so good. It was just hard to go against them.
Yeah, Todd Golden getting a victory there. It was really cool to see, because I covered the 𝗬𝗎C for so many years. And to see somebody from the West Coast get a job all the way in the SEC and all the way in Florida, for that matter, and that quickly be able to win a national championship is really cool. So shout out to Todd Golden. But it got our juices flowing, Brooke, on who we could have on for our podcast this week. Thought no one better than Loyola Chicago's head coach, 𝗤 Valentine. And I happened to randomly meet 𝗤, I believe, on Instagram. I saw the team on a flight when I was at the airport in Chicago living there. And I thought, oh yeah, this Loyola Chicago team has crushed it in the past. They were the Cinderella story of not that long ago, maybe like 5 to 10 years ago, somewhere in there. And 𝗤 Valentine leads the way there. He's run a tremendous program. He got the head coaching job at such a young age. So we're very excited to have 𝗤 Valentine joining us. Well, 𝗤 Valentine, welcome to Sidelined. We're so excited to have you here. And as we can see all the trophies behind you, you've been quite successful at Loyola Chicago, but we appreciate you hopping on our little podcast here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Oh, we're pumped to have you. First of all, obviously the national championship wrapped up this week. Final Fours done and dusted. Florida is the national champion. What did you make of the Final Four?
I thought it was extremely entertaining. Having so many talented guys and so many guys that, are like going to be future stars in our game, especially like Cooper Flag, like just the interest that it drew from fans all over the country was awesome.
Their meltdown though. Their meltdown.
You know what? It'll be one to remember, but shout out to Houston. I mean, I love their grit, their toughness. I went down a couple summers ago to Houston and I actually watched them practice for like 3 days. And I was just amazed with like Kelvin and how they run their practices and all that. So definitely look up to him and their program too. And then, but Todd Golden is a friend. We actually, during COVID, when teams were like randomly scheduling games.
Yeah.
And so that was my first year as head coach, and we were pretty good. Like we were, at-large level team, and we randomly put a game together on like a Monday for a Thursday morning. We met in Salt Lake City. So San Francisco, Chicago, Melton's met in Salt Lake City and played like at 11 a.m. on a Thursday morning, because both of us were trying to improve our resumes for the tournament, and his San Francisco team ended up making the tournament. We made the tournament. And so we've been good friends ever since. So I'm happy for Todd and the Gators to get it done.
The way he's been able to, turn that program into just, put it on the national stage, and obviously the national champions here. But what is it about his coaching style that you respect so much?
I think one, just like stylistically, how he well, puts his rosters together, and then like how he lets his guys play, like their style. It's very modern, but it's also got some old school twist on it because they really hit the offensive glass hard. They pressure the ball defensively really hard. Which is kind of like the old school kind of way to play, but they also play in a lot of like zoom action, shoot off the dribble threes. And then like the way he coaches, like he's got the swag. You saw like he had the Jordan 4s on in the game. Like he's got the sauce, and you can tell his players like really mess with like playing for him and stuff. So I would say just like the combination of like the old school values with like the modern twist to it is something that I try to do, and I text him all the time like, yo, you're an inspiration for me, and hopefully I'll win a national championship one day.
I'm sure you will. Team khaki pants. That's what I always think of when I think of Todd Golden. But not surprising that the two of you are friends, considering you both were very young when you became head coaches. We're going to get to your story in just a second, but I do want to wrap up your season because it was the end of the national championship, you also did pretty well this season. I know you had hopes of making the NCAA tournament, but you went very far in the NIT, losing in the semifinals. Just wrap up your season for us if you can.
Yeah, it was a crazy year, but one I'll never remember, or one I won't forget. Sorry, I will remember. What the heck am I talking about? Like our year was so interesting because we started off the year 8-0. We were one of the last 6 Division I teams undefeated, and then we had a week where we had 3 starters get injured, and for a significant amount of time. And I give a lot of credit to our players and our coaches for finding a way to get us out of that. And ended up finishing the season very well, and then obviously going into playing postseason. Obviously, like when you've had as much success, obviously, as we had, like our players expect to play in the NCAA tournament, and so playing in the NIT sometimes feels like you're not accomplishing something. But we really just tried to emphasize to our guys like, yo, we're celebrating our season. This is an incredible opportunity for you guys to all accomplish more and add to your resumes individually, as well as add. I got my little race car helmet right there from the NIT Final Four right there, but like add to the program's history and do something that's never been done before. And so I give our guys a lot of credit, winning 25 games this year and doing it the way that we did it and fighting through the adversity that we fought through. It wasn't easy, but again, it's a season I'll always remember. And a lot of credit goes to my coaching staff and my players for the way that they persevered.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If you don't make the NCAA tournament and you're invited to the NIT, back when I was playing, there was a CBI. I don't know if that still exists, but don't you have to accept that invitation to that tournament? And is there a conversation you have with your guys to find out if they want to play? Or do you just make that decision as a head coach, like, look, we're going to enter this tournament. We're accepting no matter what. You guys get on board or get out?
Yeah, so there still is a CBI. Illinois State actually won it this year. So there still is a CBI. And then there's the new tournament that was this year, the College Basketball Crown, that was on FS1 over the past week. And the championship, I think, was on Sunday night, maybe. Don't correct me if I'm wrong, but Nebraska ended up winning that. So basically the 2 ways that we were going to go was either the College Basketball Crown or the NIT. And I talked to our guys about what my thoughts were. And I told them we're playing postseason regardless, because the season that we had, like, we're going to celebrate it at the time. We had 22 wins, and like talked about the adversity we dealt with. Like we're gonna play postseason, so like I think it's beneficial. These are the reasons why I think it's beneficial for you. I gave them a story about Garrison Matthews that played in the NBA or still is playing in the NBA, but he went to Lipscomb, and Lipscomb was a mid-major team that advanced to the Final Four of it, and what that did for his pro resume. And so like we went back and forth, and I said the College Basketball Crown, we got to sit around for 2 weeks before you play games. So the NIT was the way that we wanted to go. And we actually got sent out. We were out on the West Coast for like a whole week. So that was fun. We got more time to we went to Golden State Warriors game, and Draymond obviously is a good friend. So we got to go backstage, and the guys he was so gracious with his time. He spent like 15-20 minutes with our guys after the game. We got to meet Steve Kerr, hang out with him for a little bit. So there was just a bunch of different cool stuff that we got to do, and it ended up being a great experience for our guys.
Yeah, meeting Steve Kerr. I mean, what sort of advice did he give those guys, learning from one of the best, huh?
Yeah, I think, like Draymond was just talking a lot about like believing in yourself to the guys, because he's a guy that has exceeded his or a lot of other people's expectations, but not his expectations. He's always believed he was that guy. And so he was talking to our guys a lot about like the belief in himself, but also the work that it takes to put yourself in the position to believe in yourself at that high of a level. So it was great for our guys. One of our guys, Jalen 𝗏𝗏 on our team, Draymond's like his favorite player, and he bought at the arena. He bought 4 jerseys. I kid you not, 4. He bought 4. Every different kind of like version that you could get of Draymond. Obviously, he got a couple of them signed, but like the rest of the season that we had, ended up being 2 weeks, he practiced in a Draymond jersey. Like I let him practice in it. Like it was awesome. So
I love that.
Yeah, so that's a fun little story.
That's like the moments that make it worth it,
Right?
because there's moments you get to spend with your teammates that you're never going to forget. And that for sure is going to be one of them. And we've talked to our listeners before about what a mid-major is and why, obviously I played in one, what that looks like. We talked about the ins and outs of, conference tournaments and how you have to win them to get to the NCAA tournament in most cases for one bid conferences. But it's fun to get the behind the scenes a little bit of an NIT tournament as well, because it is a very, very highly respected tournament. You guys went really, really far. But I do want to dive into your background, because for all of you that don't know, Drew Valentine was hired as a head coach of a Division I program at 29 years old. I can tell you what I was doing at 29. It was not that. Unbelievable. So I want to start from the beginning. Where'd you grow up? Who instilled the love of basketball to you? Because it's not just you, it's spread throughout your family.
Yeah, exactly. So ever since I can remember, been around the game, been involved with the game because of my dad. I grew up in Lansing, Michigan, which is, 15 minutes away from East Lansing, where Michigan State is. And my dad played at Michigan State. Mom went there. My whole mom's side of the family went there and grew up in the area. So, grew up to going to those games. Obviously, a lot of success. Grew up like 𝗵cie 𝗰𝗶𝗹 was like my hero. When I was little, that really just gave me the love for the game, and played high school ball. Was able obviously to play college and all that, but I would say my dad definitely was a huge inspiration for me.
So you played at Oakland, and Brooke actually covered Oakland when she was living in Detroit, which is wild.
I covered them, yeah. And Greg Kampe, he's a character. It's so funny, like during the games or doing halftime or doing post game, I'm like, which Greg Kampe am I going to get today? You just never know. Sometimes he would give me like 3-minute answers. Sometimes he would give me a 1-word answer. But what was it like playing for Kampe?
It was a great experience. I had a great time. I had, similar to what Dani had at Stony Brook. Like I had a great culture and great teammates that I'm still really close with to this day. And that's what I'll always remember. But playing for Coach Kampe was a great experience because we won a lot. 2 NCAA tournaments as a player, and I got the opportunity to. Brooke, from covering him, if like you're a player that actually plays for him, like he ain't taking you out the game. Like he's playing 5 or 6 guys. So my freshman year didn't play as much, but sophomore, junior, senior year, I was one of those guys that he didn't take off the court. So got to play a lot, got to shoot a lot, got to defend a lot. That was kind of like my role, but I had a great experience. We won a lot, and I had a great group of teammates and coaches that I got to learn so much from.
Throughout your career, you've been surrounded by some of the greatest coaches in college basketball. Tom Izzo, we'll get to him in just a little. But I want to dive deeper into Greg Kampe, though, because I feel like, if you know basketball, if you're from Michigan, you know who he is. He's been there for so long. But do you feel like he gets enough love in basketball? And do you feel like he's a little under the radar or underappreciated in a way?
I would say in some ways, yes. I would say that like last year, the run that they went on, I felt like he got a lot of flowers that he deserves. Yeah. That was an incredible run, and I was so happy for those players on that team last year. Blake Lampman that was on their team last year, who's actually a grad assistant at Michigan State. It's crazy. He's kind of similar path to me. He'll probably be a better head coach than me one day. But Blake Lampman grew up in the Lansing area and actually used to train with my dad growing up. Used to go, has my dad as a skills coach, and then Trey Townsend, who was like their star player last year, who actually, transferred to Arizona and was a starter for Arizona this year. Like, he grew up coming to Oakland basketball camp, and I always knew I wanted to coach. So at all the little kids basketball camps at Oakland, I was always like taking it seriously and was like the coach and, the player from the actual team that like cared so much about like giving to the next generation and giving game to him. And Trey was always, on my teams, and he was always a stud even when he was younger. So, but I would, going back to Coach 𝗵𝗶, I would say that I have an incredible amount of respect for him. Being a college head coach now, I understand the pressure and I understand how hard it is to sustain success. And for him to be able to do it with so many different generations and so many different the ways that college basketball has changed and the conference changes, and like he's leveled up the conferences consistently. Like, I got an incredible amount of respect for him, and I will forever be grateful for him.
Real quick, I want to go back to your dad, because you said that he was a huge influence on you. You were talking about how he used to, train some of your peers. What was he like? Like, how hard was he on you growing up? What kind of coach was he like for you?
Intense, for sure. But I think obviously, one, I knew that he loved me as a human being. And so I try to do that with our players now is get to know the person. Because when you feel connected to somebody, and it's not in a way where I'm trying to like trick our guys into like me caring about them so that they do what I want them to do. It's because I genuinely care, and that's why I coach, is because I want to help them accomplish their dreams. And I think when you have a sense of family, and you know that person that's demanding a lot from you and holding you accountable, when they truly believe in you and care about you, it's just a better vibe. And so my dad was always super demanding, but the love was always there. I think what was so cool was how my dad obviously cared for me and my brother, but so many of our friends have been able to move on in different areas of life and be successful because of the lessons that we were taught from accountability, teamwork standpoint when we were young. Like, my dad was our youth coach growing up, and so many of our friends, but he was also our high school coach once we got to high school. So just an incredible role model. And I tell them all the time, my parents were just here for the last like 5 or 6 days. And, I always try to tell my dad how much, I love him and so grateful for all the lessons that he's taught me.
That's so sweet, and how special. It's really cool that he had a basketball background with you. And I want to circle back to where you were talking about how you actually liked going to those summer camps and coaching teams. Look, every college does it, right? You have those college camps in the summer, and all the kids come, and sometimes you make a couple extra $1,000 maybe on the side, which is very exciting and legal at the time to make money to coach those camps. But everybody thought it was a chore. So the fact that you thought that was fun does kind of give a little insight into maybe what you wanted to do after that. When you got to be on Tom Izzo's staff at Michigan State, what was the number one thing that you felt like you learned from him?
One, just like the intensity and the commitment, and just how to like run the program, and how you have to just be on it at all times. Like I'm half as busy as he is, because there's so many people that want to touch him, as far as like hear from him, or like his time gets spread so thin. But like when he interacts with you, he makes you feel important. And so I would say that was the number one thing. And then I'm going to answer how I want. And then the second part is just like the sense of family that he's built there. I mean, those guys stay. Those guys are committed to the program. The former players go back. The former managers go back. The former office secretaries go back. The former student managers go back. Like, it's a true family atmosphere. I have Sean Dwyer on my staff, who's my associate head coach here at Loyola. That was a student manager. at Michigan State. And so like he's a part of the Michigan State family. And so I wanted somebody in that family to be on my staff here. And so just creating that sense of family on top of just being on it and giving to people and giving is what makes him so unique, so special, and why he's one of the greatest of all time.
Yeah, and everybody's trying to figure out like the secret sauce. When you look at, Tom Izzo, Coach K, even like, Nick Saban in football, everybody's trying to figure out like why they've been able to sustain. And, I feel like what makes a great leader is just like you going back to what you said, just understanding your players. Like there's so many different personalities, I feel like, in a locker room. And like, Dan, you can attest to that. But like having a coach that just understands that and tries to connect on different levels with everyone and goes into even just on the coaching staff too.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry, I didn't know if Dani, if you were gonna say something, but yeah, no, it's so important to have real relationships, like really, really, really knowing the people that you're, I don't want to say, I mean, I guess going to war with, like really like knowing them and feeling like that. Yeah. Knowing that they got your back. And it, like you said, Brooke, even like the other, my coaching staff, not just me, but every single person that's on that bench or in that locker room or touches that practice court, just knowing that everybody is chasing the same thing is what's so important.
And what I want our listeners to understand too is just it seems like it's second nature and that it always should be that way. But somebody that had 3 head coaches in 4 years, like myself, I can tell you that that's not always the case. And there's players that are really lucky to have a coach like you or a coach like Izzo, coaches that actually invest in a player and care about them. And you're less about the money making, the trying to get advanced and move up to a different school, especially at a mid-major level. Obviously, coaches have goals and coaches want to continue to go to different schools, move around. That's always there. But as long as you don't feel like a pawn piece in their puzzle, I think that that's really special if you can create that environment for sure. And I'm sure it's genuine because at the end of the day, you got into this to help out other people, help young men become the best versions of themselves. And I think any coach that can speak to that is really impressive because I can tell you that not everybody gets to have that experience. So I think that's super special. But I do want to go back to the time where you first go to Loyola Chicago. You're working there. It's a mid-major school. You guys get into the NCAA tournament and you quite literally shock the world. Put Loyola Chicago on the map, make the Final Four. I mean, that was such a mind-blowing experience to watch as a fan. What was that like to be a part of?
It just like felt surreal the whole time. Because I had been in the tournament as a player. I'd been, obviously at Michigan State and felt like, we had made a Final Four my brother's junior year when I was my second year as a GA. We had made an Elite Eight my first year as a GA. Like I told Coach Moser when we got in the tournament, I'm like, yo, we're going to win a game at least. And he was like, and then we won a game and I was like, I don't know, man, there might be something special here. And then we just won again, and the guys just kept believing more and more. And just like they did such a good job of like embracing it and like feeling like, man, this is so cool, but also keeping a like confidence, like we belong. And so I think that was like the coolest part and why it felt like so surreal was because and Coach Moser did an amazing job as a leader at letting the guys experience and have fun, but also when it was time to like lock in and not just feel like we're a Cinderella, but feel like we belong, like we were locked in and we were treating it the same way game by game. And that's why I think we were able to keep advancing. So it was just a crazy time because of the players' belief and then Coach Moser's leadership.
What an adrenaline rush, right?
So the first game when Dante Ingram hit the shot versus Miami, like as like the buzzer beater, like you grow up seeing that all the time, and March Madness, and I was still a coach. I was 26, I think, but still, like you're an assistant coach. And so he hits the shot. I blacked out and I just ran. I ran across the court by myself. Like the whole team, like, so our bench was like on this end and the other bench was right here. And all of our guys were like celebrating in front of our bench. And I went from our bench and I sprinted across like by myself, just over a year, like blacked out. And I was like,
so
oh, like after about like 5 seconds, I was like, oh, I'm by myself. And then I ran back to the bench.
Did that run, like looking back, almost feel like a blur in a way? I mean, you mentioned you just blacked out there, but it's just, I can't imagine just the high that you're feeling, and you're just like, what is happening? You feel like you're in a, like out of body experience. I bet.
Yeah, it was incredible, and Sister Jean became an international superstar.
Sweet sister,
Love her.
we love
Right.
her.
She became an international superstar, and that was a story within itself. And I mean, the ways that we were winning, had 3 basically game-winning shots back to back games, and it was crazy. And it was one of the coolest experiences and coolest things I've ever been a part of.
Respectfully, when I got tickets to your game to go watch Loyola Chicago, once you were a head coach, this is a couple years ago, once we met and I went to go watch your team. Respectfully, I was there to see Sister Jean. Like, I wanted to watch your team and I wanted to watch you coach, but like I was really there for her. And what is her relation to your team now? How often is she involved? Obviously, she's at every game that she can be at, but just because she is such a celebrity, tell us a little update on her, please.
Yeah, it's so awesome to have somebody like that can be somebody that in a lot of ways represents your program, and obviously she represents the university in such a high class and fun and cute and inspiring way. I mean, all of the above. She's just like, she sent us an email again today. She sends us, sends me emails after every game, and she comes to as many practices as she possibly can. She's just the best. And, our guys love her. I love spending time with her, chatting with her. And then obviously she's there for our guys spiritually and gives them the strength and blesses their hands before every game. And then, in her pregame prayer, she prays that the officials can make the right calls. So she's just the best. I love her. And she has an office downstairs in the student center. She's always there. She's there for every student, and she's just like the biggest champion for Loyola Chicago.
She's a big cheerleader, but I know she's also a fan too. But does she give any tips, hey, maybe you should start this guy, in the next game? Or are you like, okay, I'll work on that, Sister Jean? Yeah. She loves
talking about the free throws too. That's one of her favorite things. So like, if we have like a tight game where we miss a couple free throws, but we end up winning, like we'll go around, we say thank you to all the fans after the game. We go around and dap up all the fans, and I come through at the end. I'm the last one, and I'll lean down and I talk to her and kind of get like a 30-second wrap up after every game. And like, if she'll be like, Drew, like, tomorrow we got to get those guys shooting about 25, 30 extra free throws. And I'll be like, all right, sister, I got you.
That's awesome.
Okay. I love it. Okay, well, let's fast forward, because I got to get to this story, because we just find this to be so fascinating. So yes, you guys make the Final Four, you continue to have success. A couple years go by, you make the Sweet 16, then Mosier gets the head coaching opportunity at Oklahoma. And I'm sure there was probably an invitation. I don't know this for a fact, but I'm going to assume there was an invitation for you to either join him and then potentially take over this program. What happened once he accepted the role at Oklahoma, and exactly what were those 24 to 48 hours like for you?
So 2 years prior, in 2019, Coach Moser, he interviewed for like St. John's and was very, very close to taking the job. And at that time, Steve Watson, our athletic director, came to me and was like, hey, Drew, if he ends up taking this job, so I was 27 at the time, he was like, Drew, if he ends up taking this job, like, I want to talk to you about like what your vision is for the job. And at like that point, it kind of like shook me up, because I'm like, all right, like, I'm saying I want to be a head coach. I'm saying I want to, but like, holy crap, like what am I going to do? And so thank goodness he didn't take St. John's at that point. And then over the next 2 years, I just had more and more conversations with our athletic director, Steve Watson. And I think he kind of was like, I was like auditioning in some ways. Like, he would come and watch practice, or Coach Moser was amazing with, introducing me to like different people around the university, different donors, board of trustees, people like that, where I started to build a relationship and rapport with those people over the next 2 years. And then so basically once we went to the Sweet 16 and Coach Moser started to become, one of the hottest names in the country, Steve came to me and was like, hey, if this ends up shaking out, like, I want to talk to you. And so basically it was like a 2-second conversation. He took the job at Oklahoma. 3 minutes later, Steve Watson, our AD, it was a Friday night at like 5 p.m. It was crazy. Steve Watson called me and was like, do you want to take the job? I said, of course. And then right after that, we got on Zoom. Coach Moser basically, because it was a Friday night at 5, so we got on Zoom real quick. He talked to our current team, and then I stayed on Zoom with Steve. They told the team that I was going to get the job, and then I just went to work on recruiting our guys, like trying to keep as many of them as I could. And then like if I was going to add anybody else to the roster, like add anybody at that point. But thank goodness I kept everybody. 𝗵𝗃 left and went to go play pro, but everybody else stayed. I actually recruited like we had 2 transfers at that point because the Ivy League didn't play that year. So we had 2 Ivy League kids committed, and I signed all 4. I was assistant that signed. So I signed all 6 players myself as an assistant. So like I had the relationships with them and their families. So all the recruits stayed on, and then all returning guys that could return all returned. And so we kept everybody and we were ready to go.
I mean, you said at 27, the idea was kind of planted in your head, right? And you were kind of in panic. I mean, I'm sure you could have made it work, but how beneficial was that 2 years for you just to really mentally prepare to take over that program?
Yeah, it was so helpful. And Coach Moser did an amazing job at like giving me a lot of responsibility. Especially like the year, like our last year we made the Sweet 16, like we had the number 2 defense in the country. And I like, came up with basically every game plan. Obviously, Coach Moser was the final say. I'm not trying to say I was the almighty guy, and the players had to go out and execute the game plans. But just from an idea perspective and implementing and accountability, that was kind of like my job and my role on top of, like I said, being a main recruiter, as well as like helping develop and work out player development and all that. But I just think those 2 years, I got a lot of reps in practice and, would stop practice and on floor coach. And it really gave me confidence that when it was going to be my turn to be a head coach, I was going to be able to command the floor, command a room if I needed to go into a room, recruiting or with donors or like the different people that you got to touch. And so those next few years gave me a lot of practice and preparation. And I think that's why we were able to hit the ground running and keep this thing rolling.
Real talk. 27 years old, you're thinking about maybe becoming a head coach. 27 in the city of Chicago, when there's a lot of stuff to do. Okay. Right. There's a lot of trouble to be had and the trouble to get into. The other part of becoming a head coach means you stay squeaky clean. It means that you carry yourself a certain way. Did that ever, I'm sure you were always a very upstanding individual, but that's just a lot of pressure on somebody that's 27 years old, in this life of social media, in this life of people taking videos of everyone everywhere. Was it difficult, or were you cognizant at all about the persona outside of the court?
I would say a little bit. I would just say that, like, I just feel like if you're going to like say that your goal is this, you got like how I talk to our players about like, like you tell me you want to be a pro, but like you're sleeping until noon and you're not like eating the way that our strength coach wants you to. And it's, you're showing up for practice 30 minutes before practice starts and you're not doing the training, room stuff. Like, so I look at it the same way as like, if I want to be a head coach, like you need to act like one. And so I would say like, that was something that, obviously was instilled by my parents, just like the values and the work ethic and how you got to carry yourself. And so I don't know. I just feel like when you're just like a leader or like you're just kind of like born in some ways to do this, it kind of just is who you are. And so like that stuff never really crossed my mind because I don't know, everything that comes with this job, I just feel like I want the pressure. I want the smoke. I want the, I want the smoke, but you just do when you want all that. So, Yeah.
No, I think it's so impressive because like when you're young and you're starting to have so much success, I don't care if you're having success financially or, if you're getting recognized on the street, whatever it looks like. I mean, that's a lot on somebody that's just 27, 28, 29, under 30 years old. It's just very impressive. And I commend your parents. I commend you for being able to hold yourself
Well,
to such a high
hold up. What about you ladies and what you're doing?
fair. Also fair.
I
Definitely
mean,
something
y'all.
that we've had to look at our whole lives as well. You just always had to conduct yourself a certain way. And yes, I think Brooke would agree that it's a lot on your family and how you're raised. And I know all three of us are rooted in faith, and I'm sure that that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah. And my dad always says, you just got to stay ready. Like, you don't know when your opportunity is going to come. So you just have to prepare the best you can and just, practice. Don't just talk about it, be about it. And so when that opportunity does come, you can like hit the ground running. But I can imagine how intimidating it could be at like 27. You're like, whoa, am I sure like I'm ready for this? Especially in a city like Chicago, where I know the media can be a little tough, but like, how big of a hurdle was that for you to just kind of grasp as a head coach? Like, I mean, that had to have been a little intimidating in that regard, right?
Yeah, I think, especially the way that I got the job, right? Like Coach Moser did so much to elevate the program and put us in a position where we're a national brand now. Like when I first got the job as an assistant coach in 2017, and we would call people who didn't know how to pronounce Loyola. They didn't know anything about our style of play. They didn't know where we were located. They didn't know who Sister Jean was. And by the time I got the job 4 years later, like everybody knew what it was. Everybody knew our style of play. And so like an expectation comes with that from like, an internal fan base and like living up to those expectations. And so, you want to, when you're, given the keys to something that's at such a high level, you want to make sure that you're not the person that lets it go down. You want to be that person that, keeps it going and elevates it. And I think with what we've been able to do, we changed conferences. You see the A10 championship trophy behind me, like, elevating conferences and dealing with, like, I kind of got the job at like the craziest time in college sports at all, right? Like immediate, eligibility for transfers, NIL, and we jumped conferences. And so like the expectations are to, get that Final Four trophy. Like but like, everything around it is like, sometimes the expectations don't meet exactly what is actually going on behind the scenes. But I still think even with all that, we've been able to elevate the profile of the program.
Can we talk about the NIL and the transfer portal and just this new era of basketball and college sports? Because Dani and I talk about it all the time. And
I tried to talk to Drew about this before too, because it's so fascinating.
It's so fascinating. It's always changing. I can't imagine as a coach and you're trying to keep up, you're like, okay, what's the deal now? But when you learn from a coach like, Coach Izzo and Greg Kampe, and who they put such an emphasis on creating culture, and you can't just walk in and just demand culture. Like that's something that takes some time and, a while to create. How challenging is that as a coach to, balance this transfer portal and the NIL stuff, but also, try to establish just a culture within the locker room?
Yeah. So it says it right behind this way. It says it. So like when I got the job, so Coach Moser, when he came here, it was created by culture. When I got the job, I just changed it to committed to the culture because I wanted to keep the same values within the program. Again, like I'm so appreciative of you guys being like, I'm extremely flattered that you guys are talking about me in such a high regard, but I don't think that like I'm the John Wooden and invented the game or whatever. I just, think I'm trying. I want to be really good one day and want to be a great one day. But I've learned from so many people, and I want to continue to do the things that those successful people have done within my own program. So I think one of the most impressive things that we've been able to do here is retain our guys and keep the guys that we want to keep here. Unfortunately, we lost one this year, which was
that's pretty good. It's unfortunate, but it
was our first one that we lost, unfortunately, but I know we did really right by that young man. But everybody else that we have wanted to keep since I've been here, we have kept. And so I don't think you have to have player retention, and you have to have people that know your process and know the expectations and standards, and take pride in the culture, and take pride in, wearing the name on the front of the jersey, like the players that have played before them. So I think that's what we've continued to do here, and why we've had so much sustained success is because I don't think we've, even in this new time, and we're doing the new things when it comes to NIL and making sure our players have what they need and taking care of them. I don't think we've lost the fabric or the foundation of what has made this place special. And I tell everybody all the time, I'm the most old school, new school guy of all time. It's all A's and B's, or else you have a 3-day boot camp with my strength coach. Our players know that the first thing when we do a campus visit is we go to a campus. We go to one of our campus buildings, we go to a classroom, and I tell everybody the expectations. And if you don't like it, don't come here, because I want to coach basketball. I'm not coaching school. And so those are some of the things that we try to establish and make sure that everybody that is coming here knows the expectations. I try to be very honest in the recruiting process too. I think that's part of the reason why we've had good retention, is because I'm very there's not really a whole lot of middle ground. I'm going to be very direct, black and white with what the expectations are, what your role is, what the opportunity is going to be here. I'm never going to promise anything. I mean, my line this year, it changes every year with the number one player in the country. But I'm if Cooper Flag came here, I would tell Cooper Flag, yo, you got to earn it. I'm not guaranteeing you nothing. Now, there's a good chance you might play a lot and be the guy, but you got to come here and you got to prove it. So just being honest in the recruiting process also helps us, I think.
Do you feel like that's the biggest key of being honest for coaches to have success in this new era? Because everybody's trying to find that balance, right? You mentioned old school, new school, but would you say honesty, or what else would you feel like is the biggest key to success in coaching in this new age of basketball?
You got to have money. That's number one.
Yeah.
Money does talk.
I was wondering how honest you were going to be.
We wouldn't have lost our guy if that's the number one thing you got to have. But then I think after that, it's culturally, what you do, and how you treat your players, the relationships you have with them, how you help them grow. But I would say, those resources, you can be the most honest guy in the world, but if you don't have, if you don't have the resources to get and retain really good players, then I love you, coach, but I'm going elsewhere. So I would say second most important.
Crazy, the dollar amount.
Crazy.
But you were telling you tried to relate this back to us a little bit, and I'll do it again. Okay. Yes, we have had many times in our careers told to us, well, it's got to be so hard to be a woman in sports, right? But I would argue that both Brooke and myself agree that there's a lot of benefits to being a female in sports. I would say that someone could argue the same thing about a coach. It's better to have experience. It's better to be older. You're wiser. But there's got to be some dang good advantages of being a young coach, especially as you're talking about being committed to culture. What would you say are some of the advantages you've found in being a young coach?
I so many. I think, when I get on, so I don't recruit on phone calls either. I do I text some, but the majority of the recruiting that I do is all FaceTime. So if you get on FaceTime with me in relation, compared to most head coaches, and I'm on there yo, Lil Durk just dropped an album last week. Yo, what you think of the new Durk? Or if we're yo, these shoes just dropped, did you get them? Or I can just it's just more relatable and it's authentic and real. I can still go out there. I can't play anymore. I don't hoop like you do, Dani, but but I can still go out there and demonstrate. I can still shoot. I can still dunk. I can still do all the, all that stuff. And so we're playing, music before practice. Some of the stuff I don't rock, but all these guys like Rod Wave and NBA Youngboy, I would say those are probably the two hottest right now. But I get on there and I know the songs and we're rapping with them before practice. And it's just it just brings good vibes and good energy. So I would say when I first got the job, there's a lot of questions about the experience, but we've won 83 games, I think, in the last 4 years. And we've won, 2 conference championships and an NIT Final Four. So like, the resume is there on top of the age and the relatability. So I think we've got like a really good sell here. And I think that's why like our recruiting has continued to go up and will continue to go up. Our player retention will remain really high. And hopefully that translates to, continued on-court success as well.
That's funny you mentioned the music thing because I cover college football for Big Ten Network. And when I do the one-on-one interviews, I ask them like, so what do you think of Rod Wave's new song? And they love it though. This generation, they love Rod Wave. I'm curious, have they gotten you on TikTok yet? Have you had to do any TikTok dances?
No, they be doing a couple of our guys, like they do them. They haven't asked me to get on there yet, but they probably know that I'll probably go on there and kill it more than them. So that's probably why they don't want me on there. But no, we have a lot of fun. We got a couple TikTokers on our team. So
I love that. That's so fun. Okay, wait, now we got to get to the personal side of your life because you're doing all this and somehow you still managed to find a wife. So first of all, kudos because that's a lot coming at somebody very young. Where did you meet your wife? How did the love story start? Tell us everything. We are girls at the end of the day, Yeah,
no doubt. So we met in the summers. So she played volleyball at Michigan State. And then, so, with me being from Lansing and then with my brother being an athlete there, like I would always go back. And so we like lightly knew each other, like followed each other on social media. And then when I went back home after I graduated, that's when things, started to pick back up.
Slid into the DMs or what happened?
Nah, direct conversation, see her,
cool. We love that.
Approached her out face to face, old school.
Whoa.
Face to face.
You had a conversation with her? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, conversation was in her ear all night. The typical movie scene, I guess. Like you're out at a nice place. If you can catch in between the lines, out at a nice place, and you're conversating, and then it was like instant though. Within like 3 or 4 days, I was like, all right, this girl's different. This woman's different. And so we've been locked in ever since.
That's so cute.
How is she with the busy schedule?
She's awesome. So with her being an athlete herself, so she was when I was at Michigan State as a GA, like she was playing still. So she had her own busy schedule. And so we'd see each other at night. Some nights we wouldn't even see each other because I would go back home because I was living at home then, saving up the money. Because I was making $18,000 a year as a GA, and I had to pay for my classes with it, so I was making the big bucks. But sometimes, and so we just would see each other when we see each other, and but obviously made our relationship a focus and spent time when we could. And I went to all of her games. She would come to our games, and her mom was an athlete, her dad was an athlete, and both of her parents coached sports, and then my dad coached, and so we're just like big sports families. Her sister played tennis at Oakland, actually.
Oh, wow.
So my brother, like just huge sports families, and so she gets it, she understands it, and that's it's not easy though, especially right now. I know Dani will probably get to it, but especially right now, it's not easy. But she's the best, and her selflessness and organization and our personalities really balance out because I'm all over the place, and she's more reserved and organized. She still has a big personality too, but she's a little bit more reserved and Excel spreadsheet, and I'm more like idea here, we do this, do that, and she, brings me down. So it's a good blend.
You're yin and yang. That's good.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
You got to be an independent woman to be married to a coach or an athlete, I always say.
Yeah, but yourself, you're married to a professional athlete. So yeah,
sure.
You understand.
I get you're doing a lot of stuff on your own, but I, my dad played baseball and I come from a baseball family. So for you, I'm sure it just felt natural because to your point, you said she just got it. Like that was probably just familiar for her, like your lifestyle. And she's probably like, yeah, whatever you need to do. Like I'm here to support you. And it just probably felt like super natural for her and for you too.
Exactly. I would say you're spot on. And that's why you're a great wife yourself.
Aww.
I'm new to the newlywed thing. Yeah, I'm a newlywed here, but we're trying.
Yeah. You're crushing it. Okay. So Drew, yes, you mentioned that I was going to mention this. Yes, you and your wife are already saints in general. I can just tell just by watching from afar. But why don't you tell our listeners a bit about your family and the challenges you face and the way that you guys have been able to overcome them?
Yeah. So I will say, first of all, we have a 1 month old yesterday, actually,
Congratulations.
1 month old little Kellen. Yeah, it's a boy. So he's a boy. We had him actually. So we had our last regular season game on Saturday, March 8th, I believe. And Kellen was born the perfect time. We didn't play. We got the double bye in our conference tournament, so we didn't have to play until Friday. So Kellen was born like late Monday night, early Tuesday morning.
Wow.
And then I was only had to miss like 1 day of work, which was awesome.
Great planning, parents.
Great planning. Yeah. Great planning. So, and then we have a 3-year-old daughter. She's turning 4 next week, Hayden. And her story is crazy. But she was basically born a week after I was named head coach. She was born at 28 weeks. Because Taylor had COVID and whatever, it was just like it's a crazy story, the background, but born at 28 weeks. She was in the NICU for a little over 3 months. And she had 3 different brain procedures while she was in the hospital. And then about a year after she was born, we found out that she was diagnosed with cerebral palsy. And so she's a little warrior, a rock star. She's a fighter. She's actually doing a intensive therapy camp the last week and then this week at Shirley Ryan Ability Lab downtown, where she basically does like OT, PT. She does like pool therapy. My wife has her, again, the Excel spreadsheets organization. So there you go. She's in like horseback riding. She's just in a ton of different therapies to try to help her, physically be able to function and be independent. And but the best part about Hayden is that you would never be able to tell because of her spirit, how her smile, the energy that she gives off, how intelligent and smart she is. So she has a lot of things that she's working through to be independent, but she's a fighter. She's definitely got both of her parents like natural athleticism. Like she's got some natural ability in there. And so that helps her in her therapies and whatnot. But she's in a walker right now. We're in the process of getting her like a wheelchair as a mobility aid, and hopefully transition to crutches, and then hopefully be walking sometime here soon. So she's up against a lot, but my wife does a great job with that, and we've got a great support system around us. And then the resources, I'm very lucky and fortunate to have the ability to provide her with the very best resources. So very grateful.
Her sweet smile just makes you feel like you know her and that you love her as well, because I feel like I know her from following you on social media. I feel like I love her just from afar. I can feel the spirit like through the screen. It's unbelievable. And the way you two are with her is just so special. But take us back, if you will. You get your head coaching job a week later, she's born, and something so small and precious can have such a big impact on your life when it's supposed to be the most exciting time of your entire world. What was that like for you to go from this high of highs to hearing some of the toughest news you'll ever have to hear?
I don't think you understand it. Like I don't even understand it as much until we had Kellen, and over the last month, like just seeing like, now, like if Kellen cries in the middle of the night, like we're like, Kellen, go back to sleep. Like, come on, we need, versus like with Hayden, if, by the time she came home after, 3.5 months, it was like, cause she has a VP shunt in her head that gets her spinal fluid down through her body. It was okay if she throws up or if she spits up or if she is crying, like is her shunt malfunctioning? Is it like just so many, like I was at that time, like I'd be in the office all day, and then Taylor would go in the morning to the hospital because you were only allowed one person at a time at the hospital at that time because of COVID. So Taylor would go in the morning, and then I'd go to work all day, and then I'd drive out to the hospital and go see her for like an hour and literally just sit and look at her in the incubator. Sometimes we'd get her out and be able to do like, you know, skin to skin or be able to hold her or whatever it was. But it's just like, it's crazy to think about, but I'm very blessed to have, again, the support system that we had, the resources that we had, and then just like being raised with like a glass half full mindset of you know, trusting in our faith and understanding that it's going to work out with a positive mindset, no matter how hard it is at that time. So it was tough, still is tough, but you know, I love my daughter, and you know, hopefully she'll continue to get on the other side and get to the positive side of things.
I think she's already getting to some of that positive side. At least it seems that way from the outside perspective, but I'm sure you feel a whole sense of pride in her. That is probably something you couldn't even imagine. I know we've kept you for so long, your lights turned off, but Drew, I don't want to steal too much more of your time, but I do want to get a final thought from you on just what it's like to be a father in general, because now you're a dad of 2, you're a family of 4. Right. What is this like for you, and how does it differ from being a coach?
I'd say I'm more patient as a dad, a little bit more patient. But I think it gives you so much perspective with your players, you know, especially like now Hayden's in school, she goes to therapy, and you know, just like from the outside while somebody else is giving her directions or pushing her, or, you know, just that perspective of, you know, because teaching is a lot like coaching, and so just having an understanding of that relationship and that dynamic, and also like letting those people like do their job and you not trying to, you know, overwhelm that. It gives you a good perspective. But I would say it's just it's so much fun. Like right now when I go home, it's chaos when I get home, but it's so gratifying to see, and I truly, in my heart, I feel whole when I go home at night. I genuinely feel like life is complete and life is good and everything else is still, and everything else will take care of itself no matter what, because I'm lucky enough to have a family.
Oh, that's so
just
sweet.
like pure joy. I know, just like seeing your kids as soon as you get home, like when you're tired from work, you're like, nope, I'm good. Dad mode. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that.
I love that so much. Well, Drew, I appreciate you hopping on. We both appreciate it. We've had so much fun getting to know you a little bit more, getting to hear about your journey. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. And I hope we get to catch up soon.
Of course, man. Thank you. Thank you guys for having me on. I love what you all are doing. You guys are inspiration for so many women. And I know my daughter would be like, she's going to love this. It's pink background. I'm going to show her the videos of this and let her watch it. She's going to be inspired.
It's for the girls. We love that. We would love to meet her one day.
Thanks, Drew. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, guys.